The moment he said Omegas can't control themselves, I decided to ruin his life with a smile and perfect eyeliner. I don't usually plan my acts of televised vengeance. They arrive the way breaking news does, too loud, too bright, demanding I sit straighter and keep my voice steady while the studio heats up and the lights make my eyelids feel heavy, expensive. Tonight, my lashes are armor, and my lipstick is a battle standard. The audience rustles like a restless tide, phones glowing as if they read tiny moons waiting to pull the next wave of outrage into shore. 3 minutes, the floor manager mouths, making a tiny guillotine with his fingers. The countdown bleeds in red numbers across the camera's shoulder. I roll my shoulders. My assistant, Theo, materializes at my elbow like a ghost with a clipboard. He's a beta who speaks in eyebrows and perfectly timed sighs. Right now, his expression reads, "You've got this. Don't murder anyone on air. Remember your anchor voice." I breathe in, coffee, hairspray, the metallic scent of cables warming under the lights, and breathe out the nerves. Or try to. Because 20 feet away, pacing in the shadow near the guest chair, is Senator Reed Jensen, the poster boy of the Alpha Restoration Party and the human embodiment of an impeccable suit. He is taller than the camera makes him, somehow colder than his press photos, and absolutely infuriating in that way your bloodstream recognizes before your brain finds words. Charisma has a temperature, his runs on glacier melt. 2 minutes, says the stage manager. Reed meets my eyes, like he felt the temperature shift too. Of course he does. Alphas like him don't just enter rooms. They tune them, as casually as a violinist idly plucking strings. The audience picks up the hum, someone coughs in the balcony, and 3 different phones go up, already filming nothing. Theo touches my sleeve. His face does a quick silent movie. "You okay?" I nod. He lifts 2 fingers. Go for the throat, but smile. My mouth crooks. We've done this before, he and I. The nightly choreography where I turn my pain into questions and my anger into elegance. 1 minute. Reed takes his seat, moving with a predator's unhurried certainty. The chair looks like it was built for him, which, knowing my network, it probably was. He adjusts his cufflinks. The camera sees the gesture and drinks it in. I shuffle my cards that I won't need. The teleprompter cues blink. I can already see the lower third graphic, Maddie Clark exclusive with Senator Reed. Jensen, and if I have anything to say about it, exclusive is going to earn its keep. 30 seconds. The applause sign warms up. I think about my mother for exactly 1 heartbeat, how she used to stand at the kitchen sink. Hands wrung red from soap saying, "Mads, every yes should be your yes, not their yes." I think about the girls who DM me at 2 a.m., asking if it gets better to be an Omega with an opinion. I think about the tiny sparrow of fear that lives in my ribs and how, on good nights, I can feed it to the camera. 10, 9, 8. The theme music hits, slick and triumphant. I smile at camera 1, the kind of smile that says hello, and also buckle up. Good evening, I purr. I'm Maddie Clark and this is Nightline Now. Joining me is Senator Reed Jensen, frontrunner in the Alpha Restoration Party and author of the recent bill restricting Omega-led initiatives at the federal level. Senator, welcome. Thank you, Ms. Clark. His voice is smoke over steel. Always a pleasure. I let the word pleasure hang just long enough for the audience to laugh. He doesn't. He's good. Dangerous good. Senator, I say, you've said many controversial things. But earlier this week in a radio interview you said, I glance at my card, theatrically precise, Omegas can't control themselves, and certainly not a country. Did I quote you correctly? The audience inhales as one organism. Theo, off to the side, does a tiny 2-handed grab the popcorn mime. I love him. Reed doesn't blink. You did. And for context. Context, I echo. Sweetness sharpening. We love context here. He leans forward the slightest degree, which the camera magnifies to intimacy. For context, the data shows volatility in Omega-led municipal councils. Elevated incidence of existing? I ask lightly. Of breathing? Senator, forgive me, but your statement wasn't about municipal councils. It was about Omegas as a category of person. A laugh ripples through the audience. He smiles, and the room's temperature drops another degree. The smile is camera perfect. It pretends to be a concession, but is actually a taunt. I'm talking about leadership qualities, he says. Discipline. Consistency. His gaze flicks to my eyeliner and back as if control is something you can measure by wing symmetry. Discipline, I repeat, cocking my head. Is that what they're calling legislation that tells me what my body knows and when? He opens his hands, a gesture of almost priestly patience. We legislate for the common good, Miss Clark. And sometimes the common good requires acknowledging biological realities. There it is, the old blade dressed as reason. Biological realities. I smile. It tastes like copper. Well, I say, turning to camera 2, I'm sure the common good appreciates your concern. But if biological realities are steering this interview, let me offer. 1. An omega with a microphone is still an omega with a voice. Applause surges. He waits it out, gaze never leaving mine. I wait with him. A thread of something electric stretches between us. Adrenaline, live TV, the kind of chemistry that feels like standing too close to a transformer, hair prickling with the hum. I hate that I notice the exact color of his irises, stormwater gray, and the way a faint dimple appears when he's about to go in for the kill. Miss Clark, he says low, you know I respect your platform. But emotional volatility is measurable. Our bill concerns moments when omega regulation lapses and... Regulation lapses, I say brightly. What a polite way to say you scare me when I can't predict you. The audience laughs again, a little rougher. I press, not because it's good TV, although it is, but because my nerves have lit up like someone plugged me directly into the mains. And respectfully I add, calling us unable to control ourselves isn't policy. It's a fossil. Senator Jensen is a dinosaur with a great jawline. The laugh, the gasp, the oh no she didn't roll across the studio like a wave. Theo covers his mouth with his clipboard, eyes glittering. Somewhere in the back, the audio engineer makes a strangled sound. Someone's headset squeals in disapproval. Reed's jaw does in fact look excellent when it tightens. Strong words, he says, smooth as glass. Strong jawline, I counter. He chuckles, quiet and deadly. Is that your argument? Aesthetic critique? My argument, I say, the smile never leaving my face, is that your policies dress themselves in science but strip us of agency. And I'd rather trust a messy truth than a tidy lie. For a heartbeat, he looks almost impressed? Or interested? Interest is worse. Interest is contagious. We dance the dance for 12 more minutes. Thrust, parry, deflect, reframe. He's disciplined, relentless. I'm faster, sharper. He makes a point about resource allocation. I pull up a clip of an underfunded Omega shelter his bill gutted. He tries to smile it away. I let the silence sit until the studio learns its shape. When the segment ends, the applause is less wave, more thunder. The hashtag ticker on my monitor is already exploding. I thank him for his time, and he inclines his head, half knight, half wolf, sniffing the air for weakness. Off, the floor manager calls. Clear. The lights soften. The studio exhales. The theme music dissolves into the ordinary hum of people moving. My mic is still live, so I hold my smile a second longer for the benefit of whoever's still rolling B-roll. Then the red light on camera 1 dies, and I let my shoulders drop. Theo appears with both thumbs up and a grin that could qualify as a separate broadcast. He signs, "You ate him alive." I sign back loosely, "He's stringy." Theo's eyebrows say, "Don't flirt with the enemy." I roll my eyes, unfortunately my blood is a traitor. It's still fizzing. "Miss Clark," Reed says, suddenly too close, as if he teleported the distance between us. He's removed his mic, and with it the polished cadence, up close, his voice is roughened just enough to read as human. That was a performance. "Thanks," I say. "You too." His mouth does the almost dimple. "You know that line will haunt you," he murmurs. "Which one? Dinosaur or jawline?" I tuck a stray hair behind my ear, and to my horror my hand is not perfectly steady. He notices, of course he does. Alphas like him, inventory nerves for sport. "Both," he says. "You could have made your point without inviting the circus." "The circus pays," I reply. "Also, the circus votes." He steps closer. Not inappropriate close, not yet. Just enough that the studio noise melts to a dull woolly hush and the scent of his cologne, clean, understated, expensive, threads the air. My pulse misbehaves. I want to blame the lights. I consider blaming climate change. "You like the heat," he says quietly. Do you know what it does to you? Anger would be the useful answer. Here, anger would be safe, something I can strap to my ribs and walk with. But my body is having a separate meeting from my brain, and the agenda. Item is, why does your voice feel like a hand on the back of my neck? I step back anyway. I know what it does to ratings, I say. And to policy when people watch long enough to care. Something colder crosses his face, as if I'd knocked a chess piece he'd been considering. Policy, he repeats. You think this is about policy? You think it isn't? A pause. Then he smiles, not camera perfect this time, but real, thin and edged. I think you weaponize your own volatility better than anyone I've ever met. Before I can pick which part to eviscerate, weaponize, volatility ever met, Theo launches himself between us, with a paper cup of water and the frazzled air of a man who has decided the building is in fact on fire. He thrusts the cup at me. His eyebrows do semaphore, hydrate, breathe. Don't lick him like a popsicle. I take the water. Good night, Senator, I say, sweet as a Sunday dress. Good night, Miss Clark. He inclines his head. I'll see you Thursday for the debate. Try not to bring any fossils, I say. We're low on display cases. He leaves with 2 aides trailing, like moons captured in his gravity. His press secretary. Tall, sharp-cut suit, alpha signature that announces itself. Only if you're paying attention. Falls into step and glances back at me. She lifts her fingers in a tiny salute. Was that a smirk? It felt like a smirk. Great. Even his staff ships the circus. I dump the water because my stomach is a carousel. Theo steers me toward the corridor, a thin artery with peeling paint where the studio glamour gives way to. Real life, scuffed linoleum, the faintly tragic coffee machine, makeup wipes abandoned like casualties. The scent here is human. Sweat, caffeine, cooked nerves. Don't say it, I warn. Theo widens his eyes with an innocence so fake it belongs in a museum. Say what? He signs. Then he wobbles his hand, sparks, followed by a dramatic sizzling gesture. I hate him, I say, which is true like the ocean is salt water. I hate what he stands for. Theo nods. Then he points at my mouth. I touch my lips. They're warm, too warm. We walk. Each step knocks loose another notification from my pocket. The corridor buzzes with the insect swarm of social media come alive. I fish out my phone, a flood of mentions, hot takes, frantic group chats. Graphics already exist. Someone clipped the dinosaur with a great jawline line and plastered it over a watercolor. Rendering of Reed in a museum, complete with a plaque, Jensenosaurus, predator, smiles with teeth. Another shows me in boxing gloves, eyeliner wings extended like blades. Oh God, I whisper, both delighted and doomed. We're trending. Theo leans over my shoulder, his gasp theatrical. He mimes snapping photos. I elbow him, grinning despite myself. Maddie. A producer hustles up, breathless. Can you do a 2-minute hit for the West Coast? The line is everywhere. And Great Jawline is number 3. And Dinosaur Senator number 1. And Maddie Mic Drop number 4. Sponsors are calling. Also legal is aware. Legal is always aware, I say. That's why they get the nice corner office. 2 minutes? The producer pleads. I nod. Let me fix my face. In the tiny mirror by the emergency exit, I reapply lipstick I don't need. My reflection looks like a woman who has eaten lightning and now doesn't know where to put her hands. Theo stands behind me and arranges my hair with the solemnity of a coronation. You're a menace, I tell him. He signs, You're welcome. The producer gets his hit. I do the thing where my voice wraps around the moment and makes it sound inevitable. Then the night comes down all at once, leaving only the hiss of the vending machine and the tired shuffle of crew hauling cables. When the building finally empties enough to hear my own thoughts, they arrive in 2 languages, policy and pulse. I'm furious. I'm alive. My skin buzzes like a radio tuned between stations. I press my hands to the cool concrete wall and try to ground myself. I shouldn't care what his eyes looked like. I shouldn't catalog the heat that climbed my throat when he said you like the heat. I shouldn't. What I should do is sleep. What I will do is go home, text my mother back with a sanitized summary, and pretend my heart didn't try to. Sprint out of my chest the moment a man who would legislate my silence stood 3 inches from my mouth. Come on, I tell Theo. Let's escape before someone asks me to do TikTok commentary. He mimics tiny feet running. Then he signs, "Proud of you." My throat tightens. I bump his shoulder. We step into the side corridor, the one that always smells like overbrewed coffee and movie makeup from the 90s. The exit sign hums, and because fate loves a dramatic beat, he is there, half in shadow, phone dark. In his hand, jacket over one shoulder like a sin he hasn't decided to commit. "Miss Clark," Reed says. No camera now, no audience. The word MS sounds like a challenge and a dare. "Senator," I say. I am very proud of how bored I sound. He studies me, and for the first time tonight I feel seen. Not the public me, not the woman in boxes and chyrons. The inconvenient mammal under all this production, heart doing its skittery little dance. "You're good at this," he says softly. "Very good. I was born for this," I say. The joke lands lighter than I intend. "Were you?" He cocks his head, curious the way storms are curious about coastlines. I step around him. The air between us crackles, a paper bag about to pop. I could say something devastating and neat right now. I could put him back in his tidy box and call it a night. Instead, I hear myself say, "Try not to confuse charisma with a conscience, Senator." He lets me pass. "And you," he murmurs, "try not to confuse fire with control." I don't look back. I won't give him the satisfaction of seeing me burn. Outside, the night air is a relief, cool and damp, cutting through the studio's sugar high. My phone vibrates again, memes multiplying like rabbits. Somewhere, someone has already edited our segment into a fan cam with sparkles and a soundtrack that makes me want to sue, and also cry. Theo hails a ride with two sharp gestures. While we wait, I tip my face up to the dark sky and breathe until the sparrow in my ribs quiets. I hate him, I tell myself. I hate what he stands for. And under that, something small and treacherous hums, like a wire I didn't see, like a promise I didn't make. The car pulls up. Theo opens the door with a flourish. I slide in, stare down at my phone, and watch my face loop again. And again as I call a powerful man a dinosaur with a great jawline. I don't know it yet, but somewhere in a different car headed in the opposite direction, Reed Jensen is watching the same clip. And something in him that has never misfired a day in his life skips, stubbornly, disastrously, its first beat. I woke up to a city the color of old dishwater and a kitchen that could be used as evidence. 3 coffee mugs stood like a failed art installation by the sink, 2 with lipstick rings and 1 with the accusatory sheen of yesterday's grounds. Papers drifted across the table, research printouts, polling charts, a draft open letter that read like I'd swallowed a thesaurus. My apartment isn't messy so much as it is aggressively lived in, which is what I tell myself. Right before I step on a sticky post-it that says, "Ask legal if jawline is actionable." Theo arrives without knocking because the lock and I have an understanding. I provide rent, it provides drama. He slips in, beta soft in his footfalls, a scarf wrapped 3 times around his neck despite the raging October unseason. He lifts his brows at the crime scene, then at me, then at the mugs. His face says, "You're doing amazing, sweetie, but also prison is an option." He sets a tote on the table and begins extracting order. Comb, steamer, lint roller, a bag of almonds like an apology for all my life choices. "You're early," I say, which is code for I like you, but I regret being perceived before coffee. Theo mimes zipping his mouth, then taps his watch, debate prep. He fluffs the stack of papers with the practiced flick of a magician revealing a dove. Then he points to the couch. "Sit." I sit. He perches opposite and does a silent newscast. His hands turn into little cameras. His eyebrows become cue lights. His mouth moves in exaggerated anchor cadence. I can feel my shoulders drop as I breathe in time with his pantomime. We've built this ritual between us, where he says nothing and somehow says everything. He makes the shape of a question mark with his fingers. "How are you?" I shrug, a live wire that learned to walk. He gives me a slow thumbs up, then pulls out a small ring light, which he clamps to my floor lamp with the tenderness of a heart surgeon. The light hums alive. My phone buzzes with the ferocity of an angry bee. "Mom," I brace. "Hey, Ma," I say, pressing speaker. Theo's eyes soften. He loves my mother, possibly more than he loves me. "Maddie," she exhales, and I can hear the porch screen door creak 1,000 miles away. You gave me palpitations. I had to lie down with a cold compress. Your Aunt Clara is probably making a casserole as we speak. That sounds serious, I say, smiling into my mug. Is it? Tuna? It's always tuna, she says, then lowers her voice like a conspirator. He looked ridiculous when you called him a dinosaur. Strong jaw, though, that was accurate. Theo claps silently, delighted. I pinch the bridge of my nose. Please don't encourage me. I am not encouraging you, she says, which is exactly what people say when they're deeply encouraging you. I am reminding you who you are. This week is going to turn you into a statue, if you let it. Everyone will project their hopes and angers onto you because you held a mirror up and it was flattering to no one. I know, I say. Knowing isn't the same as being ready. There's something else, she adds. You are an omega in a world that loves alphas like comfort food. Simple, salty, everywhere. They will call you unreasonable, dramatic, too much. Don't let that trick you into performing a version of yourself for their consumption. Don't play just for spectacle, Maddie. Be yourself. Your too much is exactly enough. My throat tightens. Theo pretends to adjust the ring light so he can blot at his eyes with a sleeve. Thanks, Ma. Also, your cousin says the memes are very funny. I don't know what a fan cam is, but it made me feel I was having an episode. We talk for another minute. Small logistics, bigger love. When I hang up, the apartment seems to expand, as if her voice cleared the air like incense. Theo signs. She's right. Then he does the tiniest head tilt toward the bathroom. Shower, hair, armor up. By 10, we've turned my living room into a war room. The whiteboard leans on a chair, scribbled with topics, healthcare, housing, omega rights, the Jensen bill. Theo cycles me through responses like a boxing coach calling combinations. I practice saying, I hear your concern in 6 tones. Warm, wry, furious, chilled, amused, lethal. We watch a reel of Reed's past debates. He's surgical. He leans on numbers as if they're a religion, and he's their most dutiful monk. I write ask about omega shelters in thick marker until it bleeds. At noon, the network sends over the debate rules. 2 moderators, 4 segments, cross-examination. Somewhere between the legalese, I feel the tectonic shift under my feet. Whether I admit it or not, I'm becoming a face. A symbol. The messages at 2 a.m. from girls with shaky hands aren't going to stop. In fact, they're going to multiply. My name, on nights like this, belongs to people I will never meet. I didn't sign up to be Joan of Arc, I mutter. Theo gives me a dry look that translates to, no, you signed up to use eyeliner like a weapon. Then points at my heart, then at my mouth, then at the whiteboard, align the 3. He taps his wrist. You have makeup at 2. I change in the bedroom, which looks like a boutique exploded. 2 dresses navy and a reckless crimson. 3. Blazers, serious, softer, shark. 4 pairs of heels, none appropriate for running from consequences. I text Mom a photo. She texts back immediately, navy. Chin up. Show them what dignity looks like. I choose the navy. The afternoon slips in increments of caffeine and practice. By 3, the living room looks almost civilized. Theo gathers the carnage into neat piles. He signs. Breathe. I do. In for 4, out for 6. The sparrow behind my ribs practicing stillness. Cut to, somewhere else, a different kind of stillness. His office looks like a museum of restraint. Minimalist desk. 1 bonsai patient as a saint in the corner. Bookshelves arranged in quiet rows. Policy, theory, biographies of men who believed history could be folded like paper. The city spreads through the window in obedient grids. Reed stands at the window with his jacket off, shirt sleeves rolled like a deliberate concession to humanity. He holds a folder he isn't reading. That's the thing about him. He is always doing 2 things at once, attending and calculating. Harper Quinn, his press secretary, leans against the doorframe, long legs crossed at. The ankle half-smile carving dimples into a face that looks born to say no comment. Her alpha signature is present the way good perfume is. You notice it, then you notice you're noticing. She's in a teal suit and an attitude that could cut wire. Okay, she says, flipping through a schedule. West Coast radio at 5, pre-interview at 6, car at 6:45. Debate rules are in your inbox. Questions will be broad. Moderators will push on the bill. Maddie Clark will push on your soul. He doesn't turn. Is that your professional assessment? That is my lesbian assessment, Harper says. Professional assessment is, you don't have a debate, You have a date with a catastrophe, and she wears navy like it's a dagger. He exhales, a small huff that might be a laugh if you were generous. Noted. Harper closes the door with her hip and pads in, casual as a cat. I've seen you rattled, Reed. Twice. Once when the governor went off script. Once when your father called during the primary. Last night makes 3. I'd like to propose, purely as a matter of strategy, that you stop lying to me about your blood pressure. He looks at her then, a flick of glacier-colored eyes. I'm fine. Sure, she says, as if that's a new spell she's learning. Fine. Here's the thing about fine. It's what people say when they've accidentally inhaled a bee. The camera loves your control. Don't let it watch you choke on it. He sets the folder down. You ship us. I ship you the way I ship thunderstorms with open windows, she says, which is to say, against my better judgment and with a towel ready for the mess. He rakes a hand through his hair. The bonsai does not react. What do you want me to do? Something radical, Harper says, all mock gravity. Tell the truth on stage. Not policy truth. God knows you have an Excel sheet for that, but human truth. You said something stupid on radio. Either you meant it, or you meant something narrower and said it like a sledgehammer. If it's the latter, own it, clarify, apologize where appropriate. If it's the former, she shrugs. Then enjoy your date with catastrophe. He considers her for a long beat. You like her. I like what she does to you, Harper says. Men like you don't change their minds. You get bored, you pivot. I think you're not bored. Harper, Reed. She smiles, all teeth. Also, wear the slate tie. The navy reads too thirsty. He sighs. Noted. Back in my apartment, I'm hunting for my other earring like it's a fugitive. When Theo catches my wrist and holds it for a second. Steady, grounding. He signs, whatever he is, he's not your weather. You are your weather. I know, I say. And this time I almost mean it. We take the elevator down with a pair of neighbors who pretend not to notice the cameras sometimes parked outside. In the lobby, the doorman nods like we're co-conspirators. Outside, the city smells like hot pretzels and rain in waiting. The car door opens. I slide in, smooth my navy skirt, check my messages. 27 new requests to come speak, 15 offers to manage my brand. 1 email from legal with the subject line dinosaurs and defamation, a guide. And a text from an unknown number, slate tie or navy? R. I stare. Theo leans over, reads and executes a facial journey for the ages, shock, scandal. Glee, the ecclesiastical solemnity of a man about to keep a secret from God. I type back before I can stop myself, slate. Navy reads too thirsty. A beat. Then, noted. See you on stage, Ms. Clark. Try not to bring any fossils. R. I lock my phone, heart drumming a rhythm that is not approved by any medical board. Theo bumps my shoulder, then makes the shape of a tiny umbrella with his fingers. Weather, remember? I nod. Outside, the first raindrops kiss the windshield, brief and cool, like a warning and a blessing. Frontline, backstage. I have both. Tonight, I'll need them. The debate stage looks like a cathedral someone built out of LED screens and money. 2 acrylic podiums gleam like polished teeth under the rigging. The audience spreads out in seed-dark rows, the air bright with camera heat and hairspray. Logos tick past on the perimeter screens, sponsors, networks, the kind of foundations that love phrases like civil discourse as long as nobody bleeds on the carpet. The floor manager walks us to our marks, palms up like a patient traffic god. Reed stands to my left in a slate tie that suggests he takes advice but never orders, jacket draped just so, that wolf in a library posture he does. When he glances my way, it's not acknowledgement so much as calibration. I feel my jaw wanting to square itself in response. I make it soften instead. A smile with teeth behind it. Navy, my mother's text whispers in my head. Dignity, I let the Navy carry me. The moderators, one seasoned anchor with a voice like a porch swing, one policy wonk with glasses, that flash like he's planning to build a bridge out of math, settle behind their desk. Red tally lights wake up. A hush ripples through the crowd, the kind that knows what it paid for. Good evening, the anchor intones. Tonight, a conversation about leadership, rights, and responsibility. With us, Senator Reed Jensen and journalist Maddie Clark. The applause is polite, then greedy when Reed's smile lands and the camera finds my profile. I can feel the hashtag machine spooling up somewhere in the rafters, waiting for its cue. We start with healthcare. Reed's opening answer is a masterclass in scaffolding, statistic. He conjures a small-town clinic with a leaky roof and 3 overworked nurses, then slams home a line about sustainable allocation with the kind of calm that makes people hand over their wallets. "Miss Clark?" the policy wonk says, turning like a turret. I don't look at my notes. "The roof doesn't stop leaking because you called it unsustainable," I say. "It stops because someone prioritizes it over tax cuts for donors who don't know where that town is. If we're telling stories, Senator, let's tell the whole one." A small murmur from the audience. A few scattered applause bursts like popcorn. Reed's mouth does the almost dimple, which in our language means nice punch. Here's my counter. He brings up an Inspector General report. I produce a whistleblower document the network vetted this afternoon. The moderators ping-pong us through housing, wage law, and then the segment everyone brought extra popcorn for, Omega rights. The anchor leans forward. "Senator, you've argued for stricter guidelines on Omega-led initiatives, citing concerns about, and I quote, regulation lapses. Critics, including Ms. Clark, say that's a euphemism. Do you stand by your radio comment that Omegas can't control themselves, and certainly not a country?" You could hear a ring drop. You could hear my heart rehearse its escape route. Reed looks straight into camera too. I stand by the concern. I do not stand by the phrasing. It was glib. I regret it. He doesn't glance at me, which is a choice. There are measurable volatility spikes. That's data, not insult. We legislate with data. I let the apology hang, examine it like a gemstone for flaws. It's real enough to glint. It's also calculated enough to cut. Data, I say, the word lemon sour on my tongue. Data also shows Omega-led nonprofits stretch $1 twice as far when they're not strangled by red tape, designed by people who've never made dinner on $10 and hope. What does your bill measure about resilience, Senator? About how many times we show up despite being told to sit down? Applause, sharp and bright. The policy wonk raises a hand. "Miss Clark, are you arguing biology is irrelevant?" "I'm arguing reduction is," I say. "I'm arguing that regulation lapses is a polite way to say, we're uncomfortable when we're not in charge. Omegas have bodies and brains like everyone else. We're not a glitch in your spreadsheet." Reed turns his head then, finally, to me. "No one is saying you're a glitch," he says, voice low enough to imply private room, private question. He lifts a palm. "We all have patterns. We design policy around them. And who did your designing?" I ask. "Was there a single Omega in the room?" He pauses 2 beats, one for honesty, one for strategy. "Not enough," he says. The audience makes a complicated sound. Surprised, pleased, hungry. I feel the arc inch toward me. The cameras catch it. I catch them catching it and let my mouth tilt at the corner. We cut to audience questions, which are never actually questions, and I hold the line, firm, warm, a little bit wicked when someone tries a gotcha. Reed parries with surgical calm. The moderators pull us back for closing remarks. He goes first. His voice finds that Appalachian preacher register he uses when he needs sins to sound like possibilities. "We all want dignity," he says. "We disagree on the best road." He looks at me exactly once. It feels like heat pressed to a bruise. I close. "Dignity doesn't trickle down," I say. "It's not water. It's a door, and we either hold it open, or we don't." I meet camera 1 and then, because I can, meet Reed's eyes. I'm not asking for special rules. I'm asking you to stop pretending that protecting me means controlling me. Silence. Then a soft roaring applause that grows claws. Somewhere a sign flashes applause, but it doesn't need to. People are on their feet in pockets. The moderators thank us. The music swells. Lights cool from interrogation to party. "Clear," someone shouts. The red tally lights blink out. I exhale and feel my body again. The ache between my shoulder blades where posture lives, the prickle. At the base of my skull that says, "I've been watched at high intensity for 90 minutes. I gather my notes that I didn't use. The world becomes crew voices and cable coils, and the metallic chitter of stagecraft. I don't see Reed approach. Predator Glide apparently does not rattle acrylic floors. "Ms. Clark," he says, and it hits differently without the mic, warmer, rougher. "Senator..." I keep walking. He keeps pace, and there are only so many steps before we funnel into the narrow corridor backstage where glamour goes to die and coffee goes to be reborn. The corridor is a study in contrasts: bright exit sign, scuffed baseboards, walls perfumed with old paint and newer ambition. We end up alone for a beat because fate is a cinematographer, and of course, the air changes when you seal two people like us into an industrial hallway. My pulse does a quick, foolish drum roll. I square my shoulders in navy. That was a better answer than I expected, I say. It's almost generous. It's also a test. Yours were exactly what I expected, he says. Clean hits. You like to leave marks. Only where they show, I say, before I can stop myself. The corridor tilts. Don't flirt with the enemy, Theo's eyebrows whisper from memory. Reed leans his shoulder to the wall just enough to look casual and also block my exit. You made me clarify, he says. I don't enjoy being made to do anything. Control issues in an alpha? I widen my eyes. Stop the presses. He steps in, a fraction. The air compresses, charged the way it gets before summer storms. I could step back. My spine refuses. Somewhere in the periphery of my awareness, a cooler hums, a sneaker squeaks and retreats. The world narrows to slate ties, stormwater eyes, a mouth built for persuasion and, God help me, apology. Tell me something, he says softly. Off camera. Dangerous premise. He waits. Patience is a scalpel with him. He likes to see where the skin will give. What do you want to know? I hear my voice and don't entirely recognize it. He studies my face like it's a map. How does it feel, he says, to be the room? I blink. Excuse me? He lifts a shoulder, small, contained. Most people enter a room and negotiate with it. You are the room. Everyone else has to negotiate with you. It lands somewhere low in me. Complicated. Terrifying, I say, before I can assemble armor. Then, because honesty is habit-forming and lonely, and useful, his breath changes, just a shade. He steps closer. I can smell the clean press of his shirt, the hint of cedar from a suit closet large enough to house an ego. You were right about one thing, he says. There weren't enough omegas in the room. Weren't? I ask. Past tense doing a lot of work there, Senator. He smiles. Thin. Present tense, then. His eyes flick to my mouth. Heat spikes across my skin. Treacherous. Somewhere a door clicks. Buy a number and finish the show, you two. Harper's voice slices through the corridor, dry as gin. She materializes like a stage direction, hands full of phones. Expression set to, I'm too old for this, even though she's not. She takes us both in, clocking the electrified inches. I swear to God, this is not in my job description. Reed doesn't look guilty. Alphas like him don't. He looks annoyed at being interrupted by gravity. We were discussing policy, he says. Harper's eyebrow does something athletic. To me, you got your soundbite. You also got under his skin. Congratulations. Next time, bring a chaperone and a fire extinguisher. I brought a navy dress, I say. It's flame-resistant. She smirks. Cute. Post-show spin in 10. Then, to Reed, with the special fond menace of someone who has covered for him in a dozen minor wars. Breathe. Tie straight. Stop looming like a cliff face people fall off. She disappears as efficiently as she arrived, the scent of expensive determination trailing after her. Reed looks at me again, and something in the look has changed. Less weapon, more weather report. We're not done, he says quietly. We're live again in 10 minutes, I counter, ignoring the way my body leans into the same gravity that annoys me. We won't be done for the next 10 years if your bill passes. He nods once, a concession or a promise or a truce you can only make. In hallways where nobody pretends they're not animals in suits. Footsteps swell at either end of the corridor, the crew tide returning. Theo rounds the corner, eyes widening, expression writing a whole novella. I leave. You two alone for 30 seconds and the building invents a new fire code. He slips to my side and gently clicks an invisible leash to my wrist. I breathe again. Miss Clark, Reed says, stepping back at last. Senator, I say. The word tastes less like steel, more like static. We move in opposite directions, choreographed by necessity. As I'm nearly out of earshot, his voice comes low. Thank you for making me say it. I don't turn. Thank you for saying it, I throw back. Try meaning it next time. Theo tugs me toward the green room where makeup, cookies, and consequences live. The studio expands around us, bright and ravenous. On some screen I catch a replay of my closing line and, side by side, a slow zoom on Reed's face when he said I regret it. The editors already smell story. The audience already smells blood and something sweeter. Duel over, I tell myself. Round 1, my pulse corrects. The corridor exhales its stale coffee and victory dust. I smooth my navy skirt and walk toward the next camera. They usher me down a hallway that smells like old powder and fresh panic, then abandon me to a door with a paper star that says Makeup 3. The star tilts, as if even the stationery is over it. Somewhere behind me, a PA is whisper sprinting into a headset about a broken teleprompter and someone's dietary restrictions. The building is a hive. This room is the cell where bees go to fix their faces. I push the door and step into soft light. The bulbs around the mirror glow like a necklace. Someone left a powder brush on a towel as if it fainted. Lipstick bullets stand at attention in a clear acrylic tray. A faint, nostalgic scent hangs in the air. Vanilla, hairspray, the ghost of 1,000 anxious breaths softened by primer. The couch in the corner is upholstered in a neutral beige that dreams of being champagne. It's quieter here. Intimate by design. The door clicks behind me. "Clark," says a voice I now recognize in my sleep and my nightmares. I turn. Reed Jensen is halfway inside, one hand still on the knob. The room is suddenly smaller, the air denser, the soft bulbs taking on a conspiratorial warmth. He looks like he's been pressed by a thought. Tie straight, jacket immaculate. A fractional loosening at the throat, as if the last hour carved a new notch in him. Wrong room, I say automatically, even though the world is already arranging the furniture of fate. He glances at the laminated schedule stuck to the wall. Not according to this. His mouth crooks, not quite a smile. Production says there's a green room issue. Overbooking. We're to share for 15 minutes? I repeat, my voice doing a thing with the number that is not entirely professional. 15 eternities, he says dryly, and shuts the door. The click of the latch feels louder than it has any right to. My body catalogs everything at once, the way his cologne settles into the vanity's soft light, the way his reflection doubles him in the mirror, the way the room holds us like a cupped hand holds water, with care, with inevitability. We can stand on opposite ends and practice our breathing, I say, moving to the vanity. I don't need another coat of lipstick, but my hands reach for one like it's a weapon. The caps click and clack. I pick a shade called Anchor and steady my mouth. He takes the opposite wall instead of the couch, as if sitting would commit us to a tone. "You're very good at choosing your props," he says. "And you're very good at choosing your rooms," I shoot back. "You thrive in spaces that resemble you." What does that mean? Minimalist, I say, nodding at him in the mirror. Controlled. Cold unless warmed by applause. His gaze meets mine in the glass. "You're not cold," he says. "An observation masquerading as a compliment is still an observation," I reply, capping the lipstick. "Say what you came to say, Senator. Then we can perform being adults in separate airspaces." He folds his arms, that deceptively relaxed posture that says no sudden moves, I'm working. "You used me." I blink. "I used... Excuse me?" "In there," he says, tipping his chin toward the world beyond the door. "On stage." You knew I would have to address the radio comment. You built your entire closing around boxing me into contrition. "You said the thing," I say, pulse ticking higher. "I didn't put the words in your mouth." "No," he concedes, "but you sharpened them and handed them back." I set the lipstick down with surgical care. "You want to talk about using?" You set your jawline to repentant and let the cameras lap it up like cream. A muscle ticks in his cheek. I apologized. "You regret," I correct. "There's a difference." He takes a step away from the wall. The room adjusts, angle of light reframing both of us. "Do you ever stop performing?" I laugh, low and not sweet. "Do you?" He looks at the row of bulbs, at the soft-lit versions of us staring. Back from the mirror, me in navy, him in slate, a Monet of an argument. "I'm not here as a senator," he says. "I'm here as a man who would like to not feel like a prop in your show." "Sir," I say, putting an edge on it, "if you didn't want to be a prop, you shouldn't. To have written yourself into Act 1 with, 'Omegas can't control themselves.' You handed me your halo and a hammer." He takes a step toward the vanity. So do I, because retreat would be a story I don't want to tell. The scent of the room, powder and something softer, folds around us. The bulbs hum. We're close enough now that the mirror fractures us into versions. Him behind me in front of him, the we aren't. Say it, he says quietly. Say the part you're not saying on air. I tilt my head, eyes on our reflection. Which part? That you enjoy this, he says. The heat. The line between debate and whatever this is. Scorch marks are still marks, I say lightly, because my heart is a drumline, and my lungs have forgotten choreography. He leans down a degree, enough that his breath brushes the fine hairs at my temple. The room goes more intimate by a shade. You pull focus like gravity, he murmurs. You make me say things. Things you mean? I ask. His reflection meets my eyes. Things I don't want to admit, I mean. Ah, I say, my mouth dry and alive at once. So the problem is, me. The problem, he says, and the wryness drops out of his voice, leaving. Steel and something raw is that you are very, very hard to control. Control lands between us like a third body. The word feels obscenely honest in a room made for artifice. Funny, I say. I was just going to congratulate you on not confusing charisma with a conscience. He exhales, either a laugh or a surrender. You manipulate, he says, softer now. You tilt a room and people slide. I tilt it back to level, I counter. It's only manipulation if the starting position isn't crooked. What would you call this? He gestures at the invisible wire between us, at the way my skin knows the outline of his hand without being introduced. Terribly inconvenient, I say, deadpan. His throat moves. And honest? The lights in the mirror make halos of us. Ridiculous, blasphemous halos. I find my own eyes in the glass, steady my spine, and say the thing he won't. You're afraid, I tell him, turning to face him directly so we are no longer versions in a mirror. We are just two people and a closed door. You're afraid that one Omega is going to wreck your career. His pupils flare, a tell. He doesn't look away. I'm afraid of one thing. What? I demand, already halfway to the answer. He doesn't blink. I'm afraid only of losing control near you. The sentence cuts something open in me, not pain exactly. Pressure releasing when the truth reaches air. The room hears it, the bulbs hold it, my body signs it to itself in a language older than policy. We stand there with it, two animals in expensive clothes, breathing a little too fast for good television. I lift my chin, then stand very still. He does the opposite. He moves, but he moves slowly, as if we're crossing thin ice and he intends to test each inch. I back up because there's nowhere else to go, because the vanity is behind me, because the wall introduces itself to my shoulder blades. He stops a breath away, searching my face as if the next frame might pick a different ending. His hand lifts, not touching. He looks at me, really looks, waiting for a flinch, a no. The room is so utterly quiet I can hear the soft hiss of the air vent, the slow, amplified clicks of our hearts miscounting. Don't, I say, and the word surprises both of us until I add, make it easy. Something like relief flickers across his face. I don't know how. His fingers find my wrist. Not a grab, more like a question posed in skin. The contact is a spark punched straight through bone to nerve to the place behind my ribs that has been small and sparrowing all week. The mirror throws us a dozen copies, a woman with her chin up, a man with his control singing itself to pieces. Say yes, he says, almost on a breath. I should make a joke. I should call him a fossil and sidestep and keep my mouth for policy. Instead, I look him dead in the eyes and tell the truth that has been pacing in my chest like a tiger in soft shoes. Not unless you're sure. A fast, soft smile flickers, the kind you give a dare you plan to survive. I have never been more sure. He kisses me like a secret breaking. Not a television kiss, tidy, 3 beats, cut to commercial, but a real one that finds the corner of my mouth first, then the center, as if he's testing syllables. The world narrows to temperature and breath. Control doesn't leave the room, it changes hands, back and forth, a coin we spin together. I kiss him back because not kissing him would be a different kind of lie. The kind that curdles. He tastes like patience kept too long, like the aftermath of good coffee and an apology that didn't yet have words. His hand at my wrist tightens, Not to restrain but to anchor, and my free hand goes to his lapel because I need a hold on something. He's warm. He's very, very warm. We bump the vanity. A lipstick rolls, rattles, settles. The mirror captures the moment we stop pretending this is a debate in a quieter register. I hear a tiny, undignified sound and realize it came from me. He freezes, checks my face. Consent sits between us like a hinge. I put my palm flat on his chest, right over the traitor drum. Still sure? I say, voice thinner than I mean. Still sure, he answers, lower, rougher. Are you? Yes, I say. And it feels like stepping through a door I've been knocking on all week. This time, when he kisses me, the room tilts. My spine meets the wall, cool, real, and that cool becomes a relief because everything else is heat. His mouth is precise and then not, the way good arguments dissolve into truth. One of us makes a choked laugh when the powder brush skitters off the towel. One of us shushes the brush like it's a witness. Breathing gets complicated. Words fail in useful ways. Fingers learn doctrine quickly. There is a point when kisses stop being questions and become sentences. We cross it. I hook 2 fingers in his tie like I intend to litigate it later. He braces one forearm above my head, which shouldn't be anything but is somehow everything. I am not careful. Neither is he. We are careful about one thing, the way we keep finding each other's. Eyes in the mirror and then in person. Checking, checking, checking. When my name comes out of him, it does so as if he had to unlearn a title to find it. Maddie. The syllables crack something protective in me I didn't realize had been hairline fractured for years. I can't. I begin and mean I can't think. Keep pretending, stay upright. I know, he says, and means me neither. We pause long enough to remember air. I press my forehead to his, cheek flushed, breath theatrical. We laugh because the alternative is forgetting how. Then we go back, and this time it's not neat or careful at all. It's the kind of hungry that still knows exactly where the breaks are. Minutes or eternities later, we decelerate like people who see the edge of a cliff and decide not to swan dive. He rests his brow against mine again. Our hands stay where they are longer than strictly necessary, his at my wrist, mine at his lapel, like we're both making a memory on purpose. Outside, a pause voice zips by the door. 5 to talent. Makeup checks. The world knocks politely. I swallow, throat a little raw, heart learning a slower meter. We're ridiculous, I say. Disastrous, he agrees, and his mouth brushes mine in a smile. He steps back first, not far, just enough to let the room expand, to give me air and the option to leave. I press 2 fingers to my lips, as if I could stamp the moment for later. Ground rules, I hear myself say, because if I don't, chaos will. This stays here. The work stays the work. You don't get to turn softer in public and ask me to carry the cost. His face sobers, and the seriousness suits him even more than the tie. Understood. And, I add, a flicker of the old mischief finding me as oxygen returns, if you ever pull that. Omega regulation lapses garbage again. I will put your apology inside a blender on live TV. His mouth does the not quite dimple. Understood, he repeats. Then, softer. Thank you. For what? For not making it easy, he says. I pick up the fallen powder brush and set it gently back on its towel. I don't know how. He exhales a laugh that sounds like a man who's been running and finally sits. We both look at our reflections, slightly mussed, thoroughly human, lit by forgiving bulbs. I straighten my jacket. He straightens his tie. We look like 2 people who have survived something and intend to go out and argue about it again. Better. A knock. Talent in 5. Coming, I call. Reed looks at me one more time with that weather change look. We reach for the doorknob at the same moment, and manage not to hold it together, though the urge rips through the air like static. In the hall, the hive resumes. Voices, cables, the smell of coffee and victory and fear. We split without choreography, him left, me right, like the building itself instructed us. Theo materializes from a curtain, takes one look at my face, and performs an entire opera with his eyebrows. You locked yourself in a room with a problem and came out looking like a thesis. I blink at him, innocent as a saint's mugshot. Don't, I whisper. He zips his mouth, then signs. You okay? I think of a hand on my wrist like a question. I think of a mirror full of versions and the one I chose. I nod. I'm sure. Never been more? Theo mouths, a deviant lip reader. I smile, treacherous and true. Never been more. The morning after tastes like stale coffee and regret pressed into silk. I stand at my bathroom mirror, navy blazer draped over the back of the chair, watching my reflection try to practice professional. Professional means eyeliner sharp enough to cut glass and a smile that says last night never happened. Professional means my pulse needs to stop betraying me by jumping every time I remember. A hand on my wrist, a wall at my back, a mouth that said never been more sure. Professional, I tell the mirror. The mirror doesn't believe me. By the time I reach the studio, the air is already caffeinated and buzzing. Crew hurry by with clipboards and lanyards. The smell of donuts and ambition thicken the hallway. Theo spots me the moment I come through security. His eyebrows rise, then fall, then rise again in a pantomime so expressive I nearly trip. Don't, I hiss under my breath as he falls into step beside me. Theo widens his eyes, doing the I would never face, which in Theo language means I know everything, and also the deleted scenes. He tilts his head, studying my posture, then silently mimes smoothing rumpled hair, fixing crooked buttons, adjusting lips. His final act is an exaggerated wink. I elbow him in the ribs. You are insufferable. He signs, you're glowing. Then he pulls a face like a Victorian maiden scandalized by her own reflection. I choke on a laugh, swallow it, and march down the hallway with the dignity of someone who absolutely did not almost combust in a dressing room last night. I make it through the first editorial meeting by sheer muscle memory. Words about segment leads and advertising slots flow around me like water, while I nod in what I hope are the right places. But the undercurrent is impossible to ignore. Producers glance at their phones, then at me, then back again. The intern delivering coffee bites her lips so hard I worry for dental records. I catch a headline on someone's screen before they slam it shut. Omega and Alpha rival share room? Sparks fly in makeup chair. My stomach drops, lands somewhere near my shoes. Of course it leaked. This building leaks faster than a cheap umbrella in hurricane season. The only question is how much and who's spinning it. The answer arrives in the form of Harper Quinn, Reed's press secretary, striding into the conference room like she owns broadcast rights to Oxygen. She's in charcoal gray today, hair slicked back, her smirk sharp enough to be weaponized. She carries 2 phones and the air of someone who slept 4 hours and is thriving on spite. Maddie, she says, as if we're brunch friends, not sparring partners. Reed sends his regards. Also, his apologies for the scheduling mix-up last night. Hope the acoustics in Makeup 3 weren't too distracting. My jaw clenches. They were fine, I say evenly. Lighting was good too. She smirks wider, clearly enjoying herself. Good to hear. You know, I usually run sound checks for shared rooms. Would you like me to next time? Save me the trouble of explaining to security why half the hallway thought a crime of passion was occurring. Theo beside me has to bury his face in his notebook because his shoulders are shaking too hard. Traitor. I keep my smile broadcast perfect. If there's a next time, Miss Quinn, I'll be sure to request an extinguisher for the sparks. Safety first. A ripple of laughter slides across the table. Harper's grin says touché, but her eyes are cataloging me, filing away every flicker. She taps her phone. Enjoy your day, Clark. Headlines are colorful. When she's gone, I finally check my own notifications. They're a carnival. Dinosaur Senator and Omega Firebrand locked in the same room. Guess what happened? Enemies to lovers? Viewers demand spin-off. Great jawline meets great eyeliner. Behind the closed door. I drop the phone face down. My career is supposed to be sharp, controlled, built on questions and analysis. Instead, I'm becoming a walking fan fiction prompt. Theo watches me, expression softening from glee to something gentler. He signs. You okay? Define okay, I mutter. My hands tremble on my coffee cup. The sparrow in my chest that my mother named years ago, the one that beats, when I do something reckless, is flapping loud enough to bruise my ribs. Because underneath the dread, the shame, the fear of becoming a tabloid, is the truth I don't want to name. I liked it. I wanted it. I still want it. Which is worse than any headline, worse than Harper's smirk, worse than the sponsors who might pull out if they decide their brands don't support Omega's kissing alphas who legislate against them. Because it means my heart has already betrayed my reason. It means that in a world where I was supposed to fight him, I let myself want him. I sit up straighter, paste on my professional smile again, and sip cold coffee. We'll spin it, I tell Theo, more to myself than him. We'll spin it, and then we'll fight harder. Theo nods, but his eyes say what I don't. Your fight is already personal. And he's right. That's what terrifies me most. The scandal doesn't explode so much as it seeps through comment sections, under doorways, into boardrooms with glass walls and immaculate ferns. By noon, a donor pulls a statement. By 2, a think piece calls me a charismatic destabilizer with excellent eyebrows. By 4, 2 sponsors ask for clarification regarding your personal entanglements. The network gives me their polished concern voice. Reed's party releases a tastefully frosty paragraph about privacy that reads like a warning label. Harper texts me a location and a time with the efficiency of a triage nurse. 7:30. Back entrance. Booth 9. Theo signs at me across the newsroom, "Don't go alone," and I sign back. I have to. And we both do the face that means we hate being right. The restaurant sits underground like a secret. All velvet shadows and small lamps designed to flatter expensive lies. Jazz murmurs in the background, the kind of saxophone that sounds like it knows your sins by name. The maitre d' clocks me without blinking and leads me through a hall lined with wine like bottled rumors. Booth 9 is a cove of dark wood and discretion. Reed is already there. He stands when he sees me. Slate tie, sleeves rolled as if that makes him mortal. For a second I think we might do small talk, weather, traffic, the ethics of calamari. But the space between us is too charged for pretense. He looks the way control looks when it's been sprinting, intact, but using all its breath. "Maddie?" he says. "Senator," I reply, a reflex I hate, and slide into the booth opposite. A server appears, gliding like a well-kept secret. Harper has pre-ordered sanity, sparkling water, lemon, a bread basket that could negotiate a ceasefire. When we're alone again, Reed lifts his glass and doesn't drink. "Thank you for coming," he says. "I came for clarity," I say. "Not gratitude." We stare at each other like we've both seen the knife under the napkin. Jazz leans on a blue note. The room feels upholstered in other people's lies. Ours vibrate, new and raw. He sets the glass down with care. "My party is concerned." "Your party wants your spine," I say lightly. "And your poll numbers." "Not necessarily in that order." His mouth tilts. "We could trade lines. I'm not sure who would buy whose." "Try me," I say. "Because I'm tired of the choreography. Tired of the move where we circle the word we mean." He exhales through his nose, a private storm. "There's pressure to reaffirm the bill," he says. To make a statement that the radio comment was poorly phrased, not wrong. To demonstrate unity. Unity, I repeat, rolling the word on my tongue like it might dissolve into something useful. Sounds like a lovely euphemism for capitulation. I don't capitulate. Then what do you call it when you bend so far backward you forget which way you were facing? He flinches, not dramatically, just a small betrayal of muscle near his eye. I call it governing in a house where every door locks from the outside. "And what do you call us?" I ask, voice steady because if it wavers I'll drown in it. "Me, last night. The thing that refuses to understand your locks." He looks at my hands on the table. His gaze moves to my face like a confession trying to find a church. "I call it complicated," he says finally. Cowardly, I correct, and I don't soften it. The word lands between us with weight. "You call everything complicated when you mean you're afraid to pick a side." His eyes flash, hurt first, then heat. "I picked a side on stage. You picked a phrasing," I shoot back. "You dipped one toe into humanity and called it a swim. Do you think this is easy?" His voice rips out low, his control fraying at the edges. "Do you think I can just step to a podium and ask an entire party machine to applaud while I dismantle the scaffolding they built me? Why not?" I lean in, anger clean and clarifying, like antiseptic that stings because it's working. "You expect omegas to do impossible things every day and call it self-control. Why should you get to be comfortable? Why do you get mercy for being late to compassion?" The server materializes with timing so impeccable it feels like a joke, deposits 2 plates. We didn't order, pasta, salmon, and vanishes before we can apologize for our tone. I stare at my fork like it might explain adulthood. Reed rubs his thumb over the condensation on his glass. There are ways to move mountains, he says. You don't blast them with dynamite and hope nobody notices the rocks. Sometimes you do, I say. Sometimes you have to. We sit with the jazz and our unchewed food. My pulse is so loud it could be mistaken for percussion. He's not a villain across from me. He's a man split neatly down the middle by a blade named Should. The trouble is that my heart keeps trying to bandage him while my head keeps picking up the knife. Tell me the truth, I say. Not the party truth. Not the policy truth. Yours. He looks at me like I've asked him to remove his skin. He could pick careful words, but he doesn't. Something exhausted in him chooses naked. I'm not afraid of my party, he says, voice barely above the saxophone. I'm not afraid of losing my job. I'm not even afraid of being wrong in public. Then what? My throat is tight. What scares you so much, you can't say what you mean. His gaze locks on mine, and his answer is not rehearsed. I'm afraid not for myself, he says. I'm afraid they will tear you apart. The words don't land, they crash, sending everything on the table ringing. For a second the restaurant blurs around the edges, the lamps, the bottles, the careful velvet of the booth. I feel the instinct rise, to make a joke, to flick the moment away with a quip, but the truth is too close to the bone to decorate. You don't get to decide my risk tolerance, I manage. I know. He swallows, and it looks like it hurts. But I know how this machine works. I have fed it. It eats the soft parts. It will call you names I can't scrub out with a dozen press conferences. It will dig into your mother's porch, your high school, your medical records. It will make you small on purpose and then blame you for fitting. Welcome, I say, and the word tastes like iron. To being an omega in public. We stare at each other across plates cooling in neat, invisible rings. He looks wrecked, quietly, in the way a man like him allows ruin to show. The jaw set too hard, the hand that can't decide where to rest. So what? I ask, softer now. We lie? We pretend last night was a hallucination caused by poor ventilation? No. He sits back, and something resolves in his posture. A click I can almost hear. We don't lie. Then we tell the truth. His mouth tightens. If I tell the truth, I derail a platform. I detonate donors. I hand my enemies a narrative they can puppeteer until it strangles both of us. And if you don't, I say, you hand me to the machine alone. Harper appears at the edge of the booth like a well-placed scene partner, drops a folder on the table without sitting. 2 options, she says, crisp. 1. We tamp it down, pivot hard to policy, eat a week of bad headlines, pray the news cycle finds a shinier disaster. 2. We own it. Not a romance, God forbid, but a joint statement about respect, about collaboration, about revisiting the bill with an Omega-led advisory. You'll bleed either way. It's just the shape that changes. Reed doesn't look at her. He looks at me as if the only vote that counts is mine. It's ridiculous. It's intoxicating. It's terrifying. I can take a lot, I say to him, to myself. But I won't be your secret shame. He flinches like I threw the words. You aren't. Then prove it. Jazz climbs a stairwell of notes. Somewhere, laughter lifts from a corner table, a bubble of normalcy rising and popping. Reed's hand closes around the water glass again, and then lets go like surrender. Okay, he says. Define okay. Okay, he repeats. And the word is steady. We do it your way. We don't lie. We don't call it nothing. We change the bill. We build an advisory. We put you on it, and we say it out loud. I blink. Of all the ways I imagined winning tonight, I did not imagine it sounding like this, like a man blowing out a candle he hasn't allowed himself to wish on since he learned there were no guarantees. You'll be crucified, I warn. I've survived worse, he says. Have you? I ask, not unkindly. He huffs a breath that is almost a laugh. Not like this. We don't touch. The booth is full of reasons not to. But the ache to reach across the table and put my hand over his, just to say present, is a living thing. I fold my fingers into my napkin instead. Theo's voice plays in my head, in silent eyebrows. Weather, remember? I am my own weather. Harper clears her throat. I'll draft language, she says. Then, to me, with a look that's sharper than smirk, you're not wrong. But neither am I. This will be ugly. I'm not afraid of ugly, I say. I'm afraid of pretending. Reed nods once, like a vow. Then we don't eat. The food cools into metaphors, and the night gathers itself outside the door. When we stand, we do it like people who have chosen their cliff and intend to jump with their eyes open. He reaches for his jacket, pauses, and meets my gaze one last time. I'm not a coward, he says. I lift my chin. Prove it again tomorrow. He inclines his head, the old courtly gesture tamed into something human. Tomorrow. We leave through the back, separately, because optics are still a language we have to speak for a few more hours. The alley smells like rain and old stories. My phone buzzes. Mom, you okay? Theo? I type back, not okay. Better. Then I look up at the slice of night between buildings and tell myself the fall is just another way of learning how to land. The ballroom feels less like a press conference and more like a trial. Rows of cameras point at the podium like a firing squad. Reporters rustle their papers, ready to cut throats with pens. Behind them, donors sit with practiced neutrality, their suits stiff with expectation. The network banners hang like witnesses. Everyone is waiting for a verdict. Reed stands beside me. Slate tie, shoulders squared. He looks like a man about to jump from a plane with no parachute but absolute faith in the landing. His jaw is tight, but his eyes, stormwater gray, are clear. The moderator taps the mic, clears his throat. Senator Jensen will make a statement. Reed steps forward. The microphones buzz. Hungry. He rests both hands on the podium and exhales once, enough for me to see the faint tremor in his fingers. Then his voice fills the room, steady as scripture. I was wrong. The silence that follows is seismic. Cameras click like gunfire. A dozen pens scratch at once. Reed doesn't flinch. I said Omegas couldn't control themselves, he continues. That they weren't fit to lead. That their place was behind someone stronger. I believed that. I legislated for it. I built my arguments on it. And I was wrong. Gasps ripple. A donor coughs into his fist. Reporters lean forward like hounds catching scent. Reed's voice sharpens, not with defensiveness, but with certainty. Omegas are not volatile liabilities. They are human beings with voices, with vision, with discipline and fire. To claim otherwise is not policy, it is fear. Fear I no longer intend to legislate. I watch the words leave him like anchors cut loose. The man who once defined himself by control is dismantling his own fortress brick by brick, and the world is being forced to watch. He continues. Effective immediately, I withdraw my support for the Jensen bill. In its place, I propose a new platform, one where leadership is measured by competence, not designation, where omegas, betas, and alphas share equal opportunity in policymaking, in governance, in life. The cameras explode in light. Questions rise like shrapnel. He lifts a hand, silences the room with nothing more than presence. This decision was not made in a vacuum. It was made because someone challenged me. Someone reminded me that dignity isn't a gift to be granted, but a right to be lived. She showed me that strength isn't about status. It's about the choices we make every day. He looks at me then, deliberately, openly. The gaze is unflinching, intimate in a room designed to devour weakness. She showed me, he says, that power is not in what you are, but in who you choose to be. The world sees it. The tilt of his head toward me, the cameras catching the two of us framed in one shot. My heart does a reckless sprint against my ribs, but I step forward anyway. Stand beside him. The press roars. Flashes blind. Somewhere, Harper is probably muttering finally under her breath. Theo, I imagine, is in the wings, making a face so expressive it deserves its own headline. I don't say anything. I don't need to. My presence beside him is louder than any speech. The podium becomes a battleground shared. Reporters shout questions, claws extended. Are you together? Is this a political maneuver? What does this mean for the primaries? Reed answers none. Instead, he thanks them for their time. Then gestures for me to follow him off stage. Backstage, the chaos muffles to a dull roar. We're guided into a smaller conference room. Wood table, water pitchers, legal pads like soldiers at attention. Staff scurry in and out with folders. Harper drops a thick stack of drafts in front of us. Congratulations, she says dryly. You've officially set yourself on fire in public. Now let's make sure you burn productively. Reed smirks at her, then sinks into a chair. For the first time today, he looks tired, human. I slide into the chair beside him. Our shoulders nearly brush. The table between us fills with outlines, bullet points, proposed amendments, lists of committee members. The beginning of a platform that doesn't exist yet, but might. We go through it line by line, arguing, rephrasing, scrapping. His pen scrawls numbers. My handwriting bleeds passion in the margins. Every so often, our eyes meet, and the fight dissolves into something heavier, something wordless. At some point, Harper excuses herself, muttering about calling donors before they spontaneously combust. Theo sticks his head in briefly, makes a face like I'm watching you, then vanishes again. The room grows quiet, except for the scratch of pens and the occasional sigh. Reed leans back, stretching, his tie loosened at last. He looks at the mess of papers, then at me. His voice drops, private now, no podium, no microphones. "You're my ruin," he says, almost amused. Then softer, "and my salvation." I turn to him, pulse tripping over itself. "At least I'm a pretty salvation," I say, because humor is the only lifeline I know. He laughs, real and unguarded, the sound hitting me like sunlight after weeks of rain. He leans closer, conspiratorial. Beautiful, actually. Disastrous. Necessary. I shake my head, smiling despite myself. "Careful, Senator. If you keep saying things like that, people might start to think you have a heart." "Let them," he murmurs. I finally do. The papers spread before us like maps to a future no one planned. His hand rests close enough to mine that the distance between them feels like a promise. For once, I don't feel like the sparrow in my chest is flapping against a cage. I feel like it's flying. We bend back over the drafts together, pens scratching, shoulders nearly touching, building something new out of ruin. And this time, it's ours.